Well, hello and welcome. I'm Sue Britz,
And I'm Tina Lookbuck. Welcome to Retired.
the podcast where we talk about what life is like when we put on new tread, new wheels that move us to our next adventure. And today's adventure is about journaling.
It's adventure on paper.
Journaling or a diary? What do you do? Do you write a journal? Do you
Oh,
write a diary? And what's the difference?
shoot. When you said that, it signaled something different in my body. To me, a diary reminds me of when I was back in fifth grade and you start feeling all the little hormones like, and you start writing about your crushes and then you hide it. So to me, a diary is almost more exploration of innermost secrets that you hide. And journaling, and this is actually probably the same thing, but maybe for me, journaling is just it's more every thought that comes into my mind, and maybe because I'm wiser, I write about everything on the planet, anything that comes into my brain. So it could be from a deck of cards to a drive in a car. So that's the difference for me. Journaling is everything, but I have to say, I would almost say that journaling is a diary. It's just that when you're on this side of things, you could give a crap. It doesn't have to be so private. Like whatever. I don't know. Your thoughts?
It's interesting that you have that context. It's fun. When you hear about, the diary and you go back to like your childhood self, it does feel all that specials, and all that stuff. And maybe it's about our generation. I mean, this was before all
Mm.
the technology and everything for journaling or chronicling your life, like people do with all the social stuff. Um, it is, and then it's also got that connection to like Anne Frank, and telling the secrets that
Oh,
are,
right.
what's going on in the world, what is the daily stuff that you're doing, but also what are my feelings and thoughts around all that. So to me, a diary is more like it says. It's got that base word, which is it's of the day. It's every day is chronicled,
Mm.
and journaling is to me different, more
Sporadic?
open. It could be every day, but it's more open to, like you say, writing about whatever you're thinking about as an exercise, perhaps, and even writing and learning how to write or to find a subject and that kind of creativity that you do.
Ooh, I like that. Journaling, creativity versus diary is just innermost held secrets.
Or a daily accounting of something. In your diary, you're
Mm.
saying what's the weather like, and when you're a kid, what mom just said to you, and now, and how unfair it is, and all that stuff.
A
you know what
venting.
what clothes you wore, or which direction you walked to school. It's a chronicle of the time, and all the things that involves. But journaling could just be more. It doesn't have to be every day. It could be when the moment hits.
Oh, so fascinating. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then, just so you know, I had to look it up. The first, from what I found, the first chronicle or journaling that became a habit was with Marcus Aurelius in the second century A.D.
Which
So,
I own, his
oh,
meditations.
that is so
Yep.
cool. But you know
Mm-hmm.
what? I was thinking about it. I was like, so when did journaling start? And like I was saying today, nowadays it looks very different. It's probably social media is what people would call their journal or their diary. Um, but back in the day, of course, not everyone wrote. I mean, just the ability to write, to have access
Oh,
to
right.
education and know how to read and write. People, it's kind of a newer innovation for every person, every level
Wow.
of person.
Isn't that the truth? Because we used to teach about scribes, right? The paid men, of course, that were educated to do the reading and writing on behalf of everyone. You're so right. Right now, just we've taken it for granted that actually women can write and everybody can write. Wow. Yep.
All right. So, do you remember, or do you still have your journal, your diary from when you were a kid?
I do. I do.
Do you know where it is right this second?
I know where it is right this
Isn't
second.
that amazing?
Yep.
Yeah, you're a
Yep.
you're a journal nerd. Okay, I got you.
Yep. And this, I can't remember because I almost, when I lost this house or sold the house, um, I must have thought well in advance when I moved my parents to grab my journal because everything was gone. So I had my journal. So I find it interesting that something in me really wanted because it is a historical thing. And I have gone back to read it. And it is really funny to think about what I wore and the roller skating events when we had the roller rink up here. Yeah, yeah. And
Right.
you?
Well, it's like with Amy Irvine was talking about remembering your smaller child and the cape that you had. It's a
Yeah.
way to go back. It's a true primary source of your life. It is you speaking to you as a different person. So it's a really cool thing. Not only would having done it as a kid, it's as a way of self-discovery and figuring out who you are and so forth. But talking, if you had any presence of mind of that, not all kids do, but talk to your future self. I was
Mm,
aware of that. I was like, I'm documenting this so that later in life I can figure. And now and later in life you can look back at those things and go, that's who this person was. That's me. And it's a tie
wow.
to the different parts of who you are, and it's also a checker of reality because, like, your memory is not the same as that primary source you go back to. Like you think you remember maybe a date, but not even that. You think you remember how you felt, and then you read it again, you're like, wow, maybe it wasn't exactly how I thought I remembered it. There's the account. It's a self discovery, and it's a looking back self discovery, which is kind of cool.
Yes, I like that. A retro discovery.
Retro discovery. Oh, we just made up a new one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
okay.
like that. Put it down in our dictionary.
What about, it's like I was alluding to this before when I said, like mom said this and I don't agree with her. Did you use or do you use your journal, your diary, to offload crap? Do you offload some stress, your fears, your not wonderings, because those are could be just whatever,
Yes,
but
yes, yes, and
just
yes,
get
and
it out.
yes.
Yeah, just get it
It
out.
has everything in it, right? Everything. Um, so many things to say. This is a great topic. I and I want to hear about you. Really wrote a lot in fifth and sixth grade. Then it kind of tanked. Then I wrote a few poems when I was in high school. And then I don't think I took up journal or diary writing until probably right before I decided to have kids. It was the process of that, realizing that I wanted kids, and it was more in letter form. And then from that point on, it was sporadic writing, never daily. And then now, moving back up here, especially, I write almost every day.
You're a writer now, so that's why you're writing every day, and you really kind of should. That's supposed to be a part of your daily practice, right?
Well, you know what? For me, I think when I wrote my book, it wasn't that I ever had an intention to write a book. It was the pain that got me to write. So when I was estranged from my eldest daughter and dealing with these horrific things that happened during divorce, I I felt like I exhausted people's ears or it was just too painful to talk about. So I just began writing, not realizing until I started it that I had a lot to say. I had a rich vocabulary, which I never even knew. Sometimes words would just plop out and I'm like, verdant. I'm like, what? Like, what? I never used that, but it came out. So for me, it was an accident to find out how therapeutic it was
Mm-hmm.
in self discovery.
Right.
And it was through the writing of the book that I was able to take ownership of the things that I could have done better in the divorce with the kids, with myself. So it's that knowledge from that writing that has done it now today. It's not to keep up the writing, it's because I am in a continual pursuit of discovering myself, what my needs, my wants are, and the only way that I can see things clearly is through the written word on paper.
Right. That's the thing is like you offload all the stuff, and then you start processing all this stuff, and then you leave it on the paper, and you come back later and you see it differently. You see it in a whole nother way, and you can start organizing around it. And that's the power, I think, in journal writing, is that um, it's that ultimate brainstorm where you get all the stuff out, and then because in your mind, to hold all that and its
Yes.
importance and everything, it's too much. And so what a
Yes.
gift to be able to write it all down. Yeah, imagine people
Yes.
before writing, they couldn't do it. They either had to hold it in or they had to share it with somebody, and that could be dangerous.
Yes.
So to offload it and
Wow.
then to be able to go back and study it and see it for your own growth, your own discovery, and then your own organization around it. How do you make sense of all the different parts, and you can finally see the different parts and how they go together. It's kind of a cool thing.
Interesting though, I really don't go back and reread much, hardly ever. It's truly more just an external
Mhm.
release. And but what I think is just amazing is as I'm writing, I sometimes I'm in shock. I
Right.
like I as I'm writing, I'm like, oh my God, I did not know this about myself, or that's what like it's truly like putting puzzle pieces together as I'm writing.
Yeah.
But I don't go back to put the pieces together. It happens like
Okay. Yeah,
instantaneously, like,
yeah.
and then you kind of look behind you like, who was that just wrote that? Oh my God, it was me.
Well, and then I would say, Tina, maybe, when there's a moment and you want to go back, and I'll bet you'll find just as much magic there happening, because, like the other day I came across, I'm cleaning out the house, spring cleanings, and I find my little diary, because I started doing them in those little small, you could put it in your pocket size.
Uh-huh.
And it has the elastic band on it and everything. I love it. That's the other thing, is people who like diaries like the journal, the book
Oh,
itself. It's
oh, for sure.
yeah,
And the pen, the
yeah,
correct
yeah,
pen.
yes. So I was looking at it, and it was one that I started for COVID. That was pretty
Oh,
cool, because I'm like, this is going to be a momentous thing. We don't know what's going to be happening. We don't know what's going to come to us right now. And this needs to be a primary source. You want some primary sources of a regular person? Here I am. I'm going to write it down. And so I went back over, and I was like, wow. I mean, interesting, because like I think I was most astounded by how much we didn't know, and how big it all seemed. Like, I mean, we didn't know what to expect, and what they were telling us was, and what we started seeing was, people were dying very quickly and horribly, and um, we didn't
yeah.
know what was going to happen, and we didn't know how all the technology and all the infrastructure of our whole big society and interconnectedness around the world was going to all play out. We didn't know, and to
No.
go back and read that, it is it's an amazing thing. So same thing, if you go back at important parts of your life and you look at it. I mean, for me, a lot of the times when I've written, it's when I've felt I need to offload things, or I want to chronicle and remember. I want to remember things. So I started when I was a kid too. I think that it was so cute. Moms would give their daughters their first little diary, and then of course you had to hide it and everything. Um, but so I remember I have chronicled through like some of that teenage angst stuff, but then the big one for me was I made a promise to myself when I went to study abroad in
Oh,
Spain. I wanted to chronicle every day, so I would remember this cool thing that was going to be. So
yeah.
I was true to myself, even if it was hard. I had to write something, and I to have that and go back and look at it, and to see, because that was an incredible year for me. A real, there are a lot of. It was a year of formation, of growth, and that first
Transformation, really,
yeah, and
too.
and that foray into full adulthood. It was fun. And so to go back and look at that. Another one was when, you're going through hard times in your marriage. That's a really big one. And then concerns for my daughter, and those things where you just got to put them on paper, for as much for processing and understanding as um, documenting it, so that you don't forget what you felt and how you managed through things. You know, to me, I'm listening to myself, to us, and I'm like, this is total. We're total introverts, where we're processing,
It's so true.
analyzing, doing the self discovery thing. But to me, I don't find any other way than to go through life thinking about the implications for here and now, for how they connect to the past, what will it mean for the future. I'm always doing that, aren't you?
Oh, 100%. And I'm wondering, I paused for a second as you said it. Is that the teacher in us?
I
Always making these big connections. So is this the teacher, chicken or egg?
Well, it could be a teacher, I think, but I think it's even bigger than that because um, it's about our passion for life. I think
Oh, true,
regardless of the profession that we're in, that's how I would be.
true,
Yeah.
true. So, Sue, I need to put in a plug. Um, I was on a walk with a friend who's also a teacher up here, and I was telling her about, gosh, I just don't know what I'm going to do next, and I was thinking, the writing again to come to my answers is how I come to answers. And she said, I have a book that changed my life. It's called The Artist's Way, and it's by Julia Cameron. It's actually about 30 years old, and it comes with a journal and it comes with a book, and it is absolutely outstanding. And if there are two things that she says to do, it's write 3 pages every day first thing in the morning. That's why it's called morning pages. And it explains exactly what you and I just said. It's kind of like just releasing all the things in your head so you can start off the day clear. Then the second thing she says to do is to create a date with yourself, not to go with anyone, just by yourself, so that you go at your own pace and extrapolate from the experience your own thing. So it could be going to a museum, it could be going just out to experience art. And art is very broad, right? So it could be any kind of artistic experience. So this journal is large. It's an 8.5 by 11 page of writing, and it's not double spaced. So it is a lot of writing, and it takes me about 30 minutes because I always have so much to say, like I get the hand cramp. But I cannot recommend enough, because she's actually part therapist, even though I don't think that was ever it. But art has been her therapy, and she speaks like all these self help therapists that are big now, but she did this 30 years ago. And she also talks about being in AA and the 12 steps. And it's very clear she's incorporated it, but not as a hardline structure. But the point is, she's explaining that you have to get all of the things out of your head to allow creativity in. But these artist dates, she's like, it's about the receiving. You can't always get it out. You have to take it in. And she is 100. It's just so spot on. And I just totally recommend, if people are trying to answer questions in themselves, it's really an excellent way to do it. You don't have to buy the program, but even just writing the pages. However, now that I'm on like chapter 3, the things that she talks about and these prompts that you're supposed to think about during the week are also outstanding if you are into self exploration. So, if you want to reach your creative side or understand yourself better, I think this is a great tool if you're not intrinsically motivated to write every day. I think this is a really good tool to use for people who are interested.
That's wonderful. When you tie, I mean, this just sounds like a total fit. Art and writing, and yeah, art takes so many forms. So it is self-discovery, it is creativity, and it's pulling all these things together. And that what it does to our brains, and allows us to understand ourselves, the world, see ourselves, see the world, and make those connections and build from that, that's the gift. That's life. I mean, to me, that's life, but what I this comes back to mind, that the idea of the prompts. I love the prompts because if you're stuck, and you're committed to this writing, that's a fun way to do it. But it also takes me back to my years as a teacher too. We used to we taught during this reign when journaling was, and we're in a community that highly values, I think, all that writing, in a time when journaling was very much the thing. And so we'd give every kid a journal, and usually I learned to start doing the double spaced ones so that they could write in there and add things in, and because that's part of it too. When you get it on paper, you want to go back and insert and change a few things. It's nice to have some space. But we explored different types of journaling with kids, where they would, we always reminded them, this is your at school journal and it needs to be school appropriate, and understand that everyone's work is private, and you must ask to share it. Understand too, kids, that if this was written with the purpose of a teacher looking at it, that you're talking to a teacher as well, so be aware. And so that really helps kids' minds, helps the writer's mind to figure out what's the purpose, what's the intent of this writing, which is another thing which is great to think about. I mean, just the idea of your audience, whether it's yourself or your classmates or your teacher or your parents, probably will end up saying it. But we would write. Sometimes it was just the kid writing, and sometimes it was creative, for like getting story prompts and so forth, or starting to write your first draft of your story. Sometimes it was a dialogue between teacher and student, and that is very time taking. When
Oh,
the
I was
teacher
just
had to
gonna
go
say
through,
time
you've
consuming. I'm
got
like, but don't say it,
yeah.
Tina. Don't say it.
Well,
But
that's exactly what I mean. You got 30, or
at least
yeah,
sometimes more
32,
kids.
and then they've got multiple days, and you have to read and respond to each one authentically. It's a
Hmm.
hard task to do, but very incredibly valuable. And you know that, in that class of 30, you're probably going to have 10 kids are going to hold on and treasure those things for their life,
Yeah,
and others, yeah, okay. But
burn it.
along the way, no, I don't even burn it, but along
No,
the
no, no,
way,
no. I'm saying some of the kids would like to burn it. Some
well,
of them
right.
hated the
They hated
experience.
writing, and and
Hated it.
you'd say you have to keep writing, and they would just like scribble.
Be mad.
They would just scribble, and it's like, that's fine, because it's a process for your thinking and for how you're framing what you're doing. So regardless of where you went with it and what came out of it, the whole process of the actual doing of it and then reflecting on it later and the sharing and so forth, incredible, incredible things. So as a teacher, that was always something that was a great tool for creativity, for understanding, and for writing. Sometimes even, like, if we didn't do a full-on journal all year long, you, within a unit of exploration, like say you're studying the ancient Egyptians, you would say, as one of your prompts for that day, imagine yourself as, and then you would put them in that part of society, and they would have to recount. So rather than just give a report about, okay, here's how they got the papyrus
Yes.
paper, they made it, they gathered that they would talk about that experience. And some kids just were
Loved it.
incredible descriptive stuff, that they just needed something to frame it for them in a creative way, and it was very cool experience.
Especially what's shocking is to think how young they were. I mean, we taught sixth and fifth. And at that age, to be able to be so expressive, even in their writing, like sometimes it's like, okay, you know what? Let's just move you on to college now. You're ready. Like, because the depth of it and the vocabulary was so incredible, and their ability to express it was like, let's just bypass the next few years and get you straight into college.
That's so
It was
cool.
amazing to me what some kids could do.
And this brings me to another topic, is the idea of the use of, we've described just writing by hand, the hand cramped, that seeing your handwriting and be able to, that describes a lot too. Your handwriting says a lot about your emotion and where you were at that moment. Like if you're angry handwriting, or you're,
Oh,
careful but old fashioned handwriting, this old fashioned journals, and then that piece that you can carry with you wherever. Although technology can carry with you everywhere, it doesn't have the same what's the word I'm looking for? The same personal feel or touch that an actual physical
Yeah, it's
journey.
it's more sterile in a way.
Yeah, and
It's
yet I
more sterile because it's the what the computer has set for the, like you said, the angry writing, the tired slope of the handwriting, the messiness or the perfection of it. Like you're right, it can't be seen in a computer because it's going to be formatted, right? Even if
right,
you pick your font. You're
right.
absolutely right on that.
But I wonder if young people feel the same way. They feel
Ooh.
like, oh God, writing it by hand, are you kidding? I don't even know how to spell it, and so that would slow me down, and the computer will spell it for me. And I wonder if young people feel the same way or not. Don't know.
And you know what else is interesting? The last couple of years that I taught, how many kids couldn't read my cursive thank you notes.
Yep.
And I had to stop because I realized, oh my gosh, especially if they weren't strong readers to boot.
Right. It's true.
And I thought, wow, this is kind of sad. Like we've lost this way of communication. And for me, most of my journaling is always handwriting because it's
Right.
smoother. It all connects, it loops, it's fast.
Right.
Printing is actually arduous.
Yeah.
I like it sometimes, but I prefer the connection of all the letters. I don't know, but it's sad to think that it, yeah, we I don't know if it's the same all over the world or if it's the United States. And then for a brief little blip, we went back to let's start teaching it again. And then I think it's gone now. I don't think we're doing any handwriting, but there's not enough time because we have to get all these new advanced standards in and only have until April to teach 9 months in the 7 month window. So, maybe handwriting should be the last 2 months of school.
Yeah. So I'd like to close with a little connection to some upcoming episodes that we're having. We were talking about your journal, and you had to maybe the first one you got when you were a kid, and it always had that little latch with a lock and a key, which made it seem so
Yes,
much more
that's my first
special and
one
everything.
too.
And today, I mean, as you got older, you would put it in a place and secure it and so forth. Well, that's what happened with Ann Lister. She was a woman who lived back in, she was born in 1791, lived to 1840. So, long time
Oh, she was
ago.
only 50.
Yeah, well, 49, yeah. She was a diarist and the first modern lesbian, an independent landowner, did mining. She managed the farmers on her lands. She was into business, and she was known as Gentleman Jack from the HBO series. And by the people in the town of Halifax, they called her that because she would wear black and non traditional clothing. But above all, she was a writer. She wrote. She wrote more than 4 million words, and a lot of it was in code. So rather than just that little
Oh,
lock on there, the lock and key, she had a crypthand, she called it, where she would write about her secret feelings, mostly about love and her yearnings, her doubts, her loneliness, and her private life. It was all very exciting. So she would do so. Not only would she lock away her journals, but she would write in crypthand. That's how important it was for her to encode her writings. She
okay. I got to interject.
Go
I think
ahead.
what makes me a little sad, I don't know how people would have, like her safety. Was this for safety? This was probably for safety more than anything, more than, I don't know. I'm just wondering if that time would she been persecuted, had she been completely open, or I don't know. Like, was
Yes.
this for safety? And
Well,
in which case, to have to work so hard to cover up the expression, I find it all the more commendable because it took that much more effort to be able to express yourself, where most people don't even write in diaries because it's too much effort. Now let's slap on the code. That, wow, is impressive.
and the code wasn't deciphered until she had actually secured her diaries in the wall of Shibden Hall, and they were found by a relative later down the line. He started to decode it because there was a cipher decoder thing, and he was like, oh my God, scandalized, put them away, thought about destroying them, but didn't, thank
Oh,
God. And they ended up in the Halifax library, I believe. And later on, along came,
Wow.
yeah, this is fairly recent. Along came Helena Whitbread, and she decided to um, dedicate herself um, to translating all this, decoding all of this. And there's a whole team of people who are into this and have done this and have decoded it. But it's amazing because it really is a diary because it is almost daily, if not daily. She talks about the weather. She talks about the seasons. She talks about the animals. She talks about the dealings of her business and with the farmers, with the mining, with business, and of course, she talks about her personal life. Um, so it's an amazing look at life at that time. It's an amazing look at a woman, the first modern lesbian, and what her life was like. So I mention this because upcoming is the festival that honors her birthday, and I will have the honor of being able to attend this year. It's so exciting in doing all the planning and stuff, but I'll be heading out and to England, and that's where I'm going to go to learn more about her and
To the town.
yes, and to enjoy the community of that all these people like myself who are interested in her diaries and all the information that's going on. So I'm excited. We'll be having more communications
You
about.
historian, you.
Well, history is fun, but yeah, going to a history is fun and it ties us. We learn from it, but also going to this place and time right now, this festival, there are people like me, and so it's a way to connect with folks about topics that are of the same interest. And I'm sure we're going to find lots of people who are diarists and want to, and journalists and artists and history buffs and all of the things. So I'm excited and looking forward to it. It'll be a blast.
I'm excited for you. Looking forward to hearing your discoveries.
Thanks for listening. Now let's pack up this week's episode in the trunk.
Ride shotgun and be a part of our adventure by clicking on the plus sign to subscribe and follow our show. This will help our ratings and, more importantly, inspire us to keep creating fun and engaging content. We would love to hear from you in the comments sections or email us at retiredpodcastnewtread@gmail.com. Use the fast track lane by sharing episodes with friends, family, and anyone who would like to join us on a road trip through retirement.
Be sure to check the show notes for links and contact information. Retired is chauffeured by Sue Britz and Tina Lookbach. It is produced, directed, and edited by me, Sue Britz. Music and graphics are by me too. Buckle up and tune in next week so that you won't miss your chance to join our retired road trip. a comment. Let me just stop this. Stop and yes.